This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to another SV Lynx video. Last week we finished work on all the dummy coves.
Right, so we got this web all done, and then we brought that big team in and brought it out
and flipped that monster over.
That was last week. This week we got a whole bunch of new stuff planned, so we're going to show you what we're doing on the boat this week right now. This morning, it's a new week, and Brian and I are able to work on our webbing now, getting all the conduits run. And so we just grabbed a couple of these from our buddies at Competition Electric to do some testing. And what happens here is, let me turn my camera. Right about here, we have bus bars that are going to go through, and we decided to put them separated like this, and just to get the positive and negative away from each other, so when we're attaching cables and stuff with wrenches, we're not likely to cross those. So we're going to separate them like this going across, and then in the middle here, between these here, we're going to put 3 conduits through. And 3 conduits should be overkill for this. They're going to be, this wasn't wide enough. We checked the combi loom and its connecting ends, and they fit through this, but it's a pretty snug fit. So we decided to go to the next size pipe up so that the easier fit through there. And so we really only need to take maybe 2 of those across, but we're going to put 3 just in case we need to run something else on there. So we'll have the 2 bus bars, and then we'll stagger these 3 holes for the conduit. And then the other conduit that we're going to use is this one right here. And right here, where that clamp is where the mast support comes down. There's a support column that comes down from the cabin top there. And so that's an actual cupboard around it over there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put a conduit that starts on the far side over there, and that's where the nav station is. And from the nav station area, we want to be able to run a wire over to about where the mast is, and then right before you get to the mast support, that's where it'll dive down, go through in a conduit, and then pop back up again about here in the middle, and there'll be another little 90 bringing it up, and that's going to bring the television wiring from where the nav station is over to where the television is on the front area of the center arm of the galley, and it faces the table, which is over here. And so we just need a signal without having to go the long way. The long way would be to run it out all the way down the side of the boat to the back, all the way across, and all the way back over again here. So that it's just a lot of wire to wrap around that way. But if we run one little conduit, it only has to make a little 5-foot jog to go from there to there, and we can just run that wire through. Now, everything else going across this boat doesn't really need any conduits. And you know, there's always the thought, why don't you run some just in case? Well, it weakens the floor the more we drill holes in it. So we don't really want to drill holes for maybes. And so the truth is, right over here where the desks for the nav station over there and the seating over here for the small table, this is all cupboards. And we can run wires across the boat inside those cupboards all we want. And so there's no issue with running any wiring across the boat here. And so we can connect anything we want later. If we come up with something else we need, it can run. And then any wire that comes across there can run down the side of the boat to wherever it needs to go. And so you could run wire over there and then down, or on the other side and down, and then here you have refrigerators and kitchen cupboards, and they can run out there to the refrigerators or anything like that. Over here can run power to the table if you want to be able to plug in laptops and all that kind of stuff. So it's all right here. So there's really nothing that has to cross the bridge deck, with the exception of from the engine compartments, where you have to take mass amounts of power across, and that's what these bus bars do, is they take this mass amount of power across the boat right here. And there's going to be 3 conduits running across that we could run wiring through. Finally, if there's other wiring we needed to run through, remember that there's also a bench right here, and we can reach here and go across the boat through the bench to the other side. So getting things across the boat is really not a problem. We can take them across up there, back there, or through the 3 conduits we're going to put through the middle. So we have both ends and a section in the middle. Other than that, we can't really think of anything else that could possibly need to cross here when it comes to electrical. Now, another thing that we are going to run across is a water, because we need to be able to equalize the water tanks. But that takes place way up here, because the water tanks are down in the hull down here, and all this area up here is lockers and stuff from the top deck, and underneath here we have access through those lockers, and we can run anything we want across the boat right here. So that's where your water equalizing, your diesel lines are going to go for equalizing diesel tanks. It's all going to be up here in these locker areas, not in the back there. So we don't have any problem with running it through this at all, because it can be in the locker area up here. So again, no need to put holes through this, because we have places above it that are hidden away that we have access to from above. And so it's always better to have access anyway. If you had to go in there and replace something, if that diesel line got old or whatever, you could have full access to it from the cupboards, rather than if it's inside the bridge deck, you'd have to cut into the bridge deck to get to it. So we don't like that idea. So we'll run everything that we want to run across up in these cupboards here, through these cupboards at the nav station table, and through the cupboards, the bench at the back, or through the conduits that we put in the middle. But other than water going across the boat, diesel going across the boat, and any power going across the boat, what else is there? Yeah, so that really takes care of it. Remember, none of the heads have to send anything across the boat. They're all going to be going right down to the bilge and then right out, either into a holding tank or right out through a through hull. So nothing crosses when it comes to any gray water, black water type stuff. That's all local and out. So they each have their own things for that. So pretty easy there. Same thing on bilge pumps. We're not going to ever send water from one side with a bilge pump to the other. If there's a problem, we're going to send that water overboard right away. So, if anybody can think of something that I just didn't cover that still needs to cross over this boat, I'm all ears. Put it in the comments. Thanks.
It's time to get to work cutting in the holes for the bus bars, and of course we've 3D printed some holders that we will be inserting into the foam holes that we cut, and we'll also epoxy them in once we get this all fitted correctly. Here's the 3D printer printing out our part. Now let's get to work cutting those holes.
One of the things we're adding to our bridge deck is a great drain that's right in front of the slider. And it's about where that 2x4 is, right there. And the issue we have is that there's some reinforcement layers that come along through here, but they're going to reach that point where the drain sticks up, and we don't want to cut them. They're supposed to be continuous. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a box kind of like this 2x4 that allows the reinforcement material to go right over it, and it won't therefore be broken, and yet the drain be able to sit down into that trough that we built. So we're going to go ahead and construct that out of some offcuts, since this isn't part of the kit. We're adding this drain ourselves. We've got our drain that we have to cut into the floor. So this is our offcut piece. Now this piece doesn't need to be the full length of this little box we're building. It just has to be long enough for the reinforcements to go over. So there's some other things we're going to do to support this. We'll show you that when we're cutting that in a little later. But initially here, we need to get this box built over here to allow the reinforcements to go over this. And that's what we're doing right now, cutting it up. Not that long. It's going to be that wide. And then there are two shallow sides to it, which we're going to need to cut as well. So those are our measurements. Now I just need a square. Okay. Cut those out. All right.
Now that we had our little bridge built, we moved back to the bridge deck to cut the holes for the conduits.
Yes, you can get your finest piece of SV Lynx for your one and only self. You can hang it around your neck on a chain, mounted on the wall. Whatever you want for a very, very small price. You can own a piece of this boat. Or not. Okay, conduits are through.
The following morning, while it was still cool, we decided to start glassing on the long strips of reinforcements. And this one is already down, and we're about to put the second layer on. We continued laying this second layer down, but you've seen enough of this, so we'll move on to the next day.
It's Friday, and we're back to work on these reinforcements. Now we're getting one of the ones that goes across done. And then we're going to put the rest of the layers that go lengthwise Ryan's going to start mixing that right about now. All right, time to get down. That's our little bridge area that lets the reinforcement go over the top so that our drain, remember this is going to be flipped over and the drain is cut through down in here. Now it doesn't have to be closed at the end because this isn't actually the part that's holding the drain. This is just a bridge for the reinforcement cloth to make it over that without an interruption there. And so otherwise we would have had to cut it. When we cut the hole open, we would have cut this. So anyway, so that works out fine. And that concludes all of the reinforcement that we're going to be putting onto the bottom of the sole piece, which is what this is. Now this, the bottom of the bridge deck piece gets more, and eventually there's going to be the most reinforcement will be right here under the mast, but we don't put that on yet. That we'll be putting on to both the actual bridge deck bottom and on top of the web before we flip this over and bond it down onto it. So that's the way that works. And now we're just cleaning up a little excess on the sides. All right, on to the next thing. We're going to move on to working on the conduits and bus bars again. It's time to start gluing the mounts and sealing up the foam in the holes that we drilled and getting that all finished up. So while those reinforcements are over there setting up on the sole, we're going to go ahead and epoxy these 3D printed parts on and get the bus bar inserted. Now, it's a very tight fit, which is good because we don't want it rattling. But being such a tight fit, as we're putting this on, it's kind of tricky to keep the pieces glued in place. Now, we can't pre-glue them because it's such a tight fit that these need to adjust slightly as the bus bar comes through. And so we have to put the bus bar in while the epoxy's still uncured. So we've got a plan for that, and we're going to start by putting a little bead on all of the 3D parts, and we're going to wipe some epoxy on the inside of the foam, but we only put half of these in as we go across, and we leave the other one just on the bus bar but not actually inserted yet, because as we push the bus bar across, it keeps pulling the ones that are facing this direction off. So we're only going to put the ones facing the other direction, but we will put these on the bar so that they're there. Obviously they have to be on it. Once we get the bar all the way through, we'll go back through and snug up the other half of them. So that's the plan. It's always good to have a plan. Now let's find out if the plan actually works or not. All right, got the second conduit in now, all epoxied in, so good to go there. All we have to do is left is the center hole. Now we've decided not to put a conduit through here now. Instead, we're going to use a 3D printed part and seal up these holes. Well, not seal them up, but seal up the edges. And we're going to leave that as a ventilation through there in case there's any heat buildup anywhere from these bus bars. We don't want it trapped inside these airtight compartments. And so we're going to have this one be ventilation, and I might even put a fan on one end with a thermostat to kick on in case this ever gets warm in there, and blow air through. These two are plenty for what we have to go across here. In fact, we only need one. Just this one will handle everything that has to go across that we know of. That leaves the other conduit completely for something we forgot. And so we're good to go there. So plenty for that. That plan changed on the heartbeat because I didn't have anywhere else to put a vent. There was too many holes here already, so that's why we decided to get rid of the little conduit, just a smaller one. So there you go. That's our conduit row there. We have a larger team of crew today. I've got Nick and Terry and of course Brian here. Terry's scuffing up the conduits that we're going to be epoxing into the web. Well, Brian's over here cutting holes through. This particular conduit is just to take one video signal that's going to go through and down to a little further than where he's at right now. So he's going to get the holes cut through there. And well, he's working on that. Terry's working on getting the conduits prepared because, as you can see here, we already drilled holes through right here. And what this is this is where a water drain is going to come out so that we can defrost the two freezer refrigerators that are out there on the island. And so they need a way to defrost without running water out onto the floor. So this particular conduit is for that. And then the other one he's working on is for the television signal coming over from the nav station down there to where the television is, about where he is right now. But that's not all that's going on. We're also, while they're working on the conduits, I've got Nick out here. Say hi, Nick. Hey. And Nick and I pulled out the last full-size panel that was left in the big orange shipping container. There are no more of these. This is it. This is the actual bottom of the bridge deck, the part that faces the water underneath the boat. That's why there's no holes in it anywhere. And so we need to get the peel ply off today because we're going to be replacing the current floor that's in underneath the boat with this one today. Going to move the panel out. We got to flip it over, spin it around, because of course it's not in the right orientation. So we're working on the opposite side of the bridge deck bottom, getting the peel ply off. We got our moving crew here now. So we've got Carl and Zach and Nick and Brian and myself, and hiding over there underneath the boat is Ken. So we're going to be starting out by moving this big panel on top of here. So that's what we're about to do. And so here we go. Over here, folks. Go ahead and move that cardboard. We're going to tilt the top over, and we're just going to we're going to carry it flat and just lay it down on top of this, and we can slide it a little bit there.
You want us to come in behind it when it's starting to tilt, or how do we deal with being underneath it here? Is it...
It'll be all right. Just grab it from the end right there until we get it up. Okay, we can set it on the grid, guys.
Just as easy this way, I think.
Go ahead and let it down. Okay. Now if we just kind of lift the leading edge, it'll slide. Let them get that leading edge lifted. Okay, and then down. Sliding this down onto that one. Put it down and slide it. Hey, you guys could slide it if you want, if you're getting tired. If you're not, carry it. You seem to have a bus bar.
It kind of clicked on something there.
I think it's this. Okay, actually, we want to take this one down even further.
We need to go a little clearer to clear this stuff in.
We need to get past the end of the boat. Keep going. Move the camera if you need to. Another foot or so. Because what we're doing with this now is we're going to be putting it against this over here. All right, so we're going to drag it out.
Slide it.
And because it can still, that side can be resting, you know, its weight on here until we get to here. So we're going to drag it out to here, and we're going to drop this edge down, and then we're just going to tilt it up.
Be careful of the...
Okay, this is the hard part. I'm going to try and lift this over the bus bars. Because your end's going down over there, Carl. All right, I'm going to come up. Okay, get out of there, Carl.
Anyone else who's stuck in there? Yeah, I was wondering too.
Fingers.
We're coming this way a little bit. All right. This isn't that heavy. I told you we'd be done by noon. This is the last thing. All right. Now we want to line up your end with the bulkhead, basically. All right, so we left it in place here because this actually comes down all the way. That's why I made this table go all the way to here so that this can curve up later. But before we do that, we have to route this edge and the back of that out, so we're leaving them where we can get to them right now, and attach the piece that goes down the side of here and the piece that goes on the far end over there. Once that's all on, we'll slide it down to the full length over there.
There was a lot more work to getting this bridge deck completed. We had to install the conduits and bus bars.
Yeah, that took quite a bit of work, but as you can see, and in the video, we got it all done, and that means that we can get started on putting in the reinforcements and such into the sole. Well, actually, it's going to be the bottom of the bridge deck, not the sole. And we also are going to have a lot of work to go next week on a bunch of coves and tabbing that we haven't accomplished yet on the inside middle portion of the web. But we'll get to that next week. But thank you for spending time with us this week, and we hope you enjoyed the video. And thank you to our patrons who are always supporting our project, and it helps us greatly. So
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you so much. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
Which will be starting with expanding the size of that bridge deck bottom portion, because it's got to be even longer. And so there's a bunch of pieces we have to add to it, and we'll start with that next week. See you then.
Bye.